Hi, my name is Billy. My pronouns are they or she, and I'm from Move with Billy. I teach online workout and yoga classes that are anti-diet culture, trauma informed, and inclusive spaces for everyone. So today we're going through a short yoga practice, and we'll actually start off standing. Now, that said, if you feel like sitting down or you feel like laying down, go for it. And before we start to move, I just want to give a little disclaimer that in this practice and like any other practice, listen to your body over what I say. So if you want to spend this whole chunk of time laying down, having a little nap, go for it. If you want to do some of the thing, like some of the poses and then forget some of them, go for it. Really listen to your body as you move throughout this and just kind of check in like what feels good. What do you want to be doing? Like what movements would feel good right now? What movements would you want to do? If you're not sure, that's okay. All right, so stand maybe feet close together, maybe feet a little further apart, just trying to find a place that feels comfortable. All right. And then we're actually going to start by shifting a little. So shift a little to the left, shift a little to the right. See if you can bring your awareness to your feet. Really noticing what's happening in your feet as you do that. And then shift back a little bit, shift forward a little bit, and then find the middle. So the middle of your heel and both sides of your toe mounds. Notice if you're locking in your knees. Think of not necessarily bending them, but softening. Now your arms can be at your sides if you want. Hands can be on your body if you want. Might close your eyes. And just really focusing in on your feet. Noticing if you lock your knees again. Notice if you're clenching your jaw, if you're already like, oh God, what are we doing? That's okay. That's all normal. See if you can bring your focus back to your feet. Take a slow breath in your nose and a slow breath out. Nice. You can open your eyes if you'd like. Bring your hands to your hips. Turn your right knee towards the right. And then you can prop your heel onto your left leg, or you can step your foot onto your leg, whichever works for you. And I'm stepping mine to like below my knee. You might step yours to your ankle. You might step your foot to your thigh, like whatever works for you. And then hands might come to your heart, but you can play around. Maybe you have your arms out to the sides. So notice, did you just lock your knee? I did. Are you starting to favor like the outside edge of your foot? Can you come back to pressing in the middle of your heel, both sides of your toe mounds? Now, if you're feeling a little bit tippy, you might like have your hand on a wall. Generally having your gaze somewhere around horizon level will help, and having your brain focused in on your breath rather than like running around all over the place can also be helpful. Let's just take another breath here. Push your left foot down into the floor. Think you're growing a little taller as you exhale. And then bring your hands to your hips. Bring your right knee forwards, right foot down. Turn your left knee to the side. Maybe you take a second here first. And when you're ready, step your left foot to your right leg or prop your heel onto your right leg. Another option you can do is use a block or like a stack of books and step your foot there or tap your toe there if you'd like. So sometimes I like starting off with a balancing posture because as maybe you're experiencing, the more your brain wanders, sometimes the harder it is to balance. That was not planned, I promise. So sometimes I find it helpful if I start off a practice with a balancing posture, because then I can like really come back to this moment, noticing how I feel in my body right now. As you exhale again, grow a little taller. Think of growing through the top of your head. And bring your hands to your hips. Turn your left knee forward, step your left foot down. Feet can be close together or feet can be further apart. This feels better in my body, feet farther apart. Inhale, circle both arms overhead. Option to interlace your fingers up here or bend your elbows. Place your hands on your head. From here, side bend to the right. So these are just two options for your arms. You might like reach your arms to the side, play around, make your own options up. Notice if you're locking in your knees, think of softening again. This time you're pressing evenly in both feet. in those 3 spots. Hips can be moving towards the left a little bit. Focus on your breath. What's happening in your breath? If you can't feel it, that's okay. Maybe you can and you can intentionally slow it down. Push into your feet. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, side bend to the left. Notice your feet. Notice your legs. Notice your jaw. Are you clenching your jaw? Are you pushing your head down with your hands? Can you think of like lightening your pressure off from your hands? Does that make sense? Push your feet into the floor. Inhale, come back up. Arms at your sides or hands on your body. Take a full breath in your nose. And a slow breath out. Let's just do a couple more standing postures and then we will transition to something else, okay? Inhale, circle both arms overhead. As you exhale, twist towards the right. So you can use your arms here, press your right arm back, left arm forwards. Maybe you have your hands at your heart or your hands on your head. So you're trying to do most of the twisting with your muscles in your core, in your torso, rather than like just looking to the right with your head. Inhale, reach both arms overhead. Exhale, twist to the left. So maybe left arm back, right arm forwards. Inhale, reach both arms overhead. Exhale, right arm back, left arm forwards. Let's do one more to the left. Breathe in, come to center. Exhale, left arm back, right arm forwards. Nice. Inhale, reach your arms overhead, hands to your hips. Take a step back with your left foot. Doesn't have to be a very big step. Toes down on the floor. Heels are lifted, your heel is lifted, and then you're facing the top edge of your mat. Bend into your right knee. So say from the front here as well. Sometimes when we set up like this, we set up in a pretty narrow stance, like on a tightrope. Try to move your left foot to the left a little bit more. So you have a little bit more space. Generally, that means it's a little easier to balance, but also can free up your hips a little bit to do a little bit more moving. Not that they have to be moving. Arms alongside your body. Find space in the back of your neck. Notice as you're here, are your shoulders like up to your ears? Can you think of moving your shoulders away from your ears? Reach your fingertips towards your back heel. Bring your hands onto your hips. Now you're going to pivot your left heel down. So my left toes are pointing to the side, so pointing this way. Right toes are pointing forwards. And then just because of where my left foot landed, I'm actually going to move my left foot back a bit. You might do that, you might not. Bend into your right knee and notice how this feels in your hip. If it feels weird in any way, you can straighten your leg, move your foot to the right, move your foot to the left, and then bend again. How does it feel now? Arms might be parallel to the floor. Maybe they're reaching like front to back. Maybe they're reaching out this direction a little bit more. Notice what's happening in your brain again. If there's anywhere in your brain that's saying like, oh, this is how this pose is supposed to look, can we just throw that out the window? There's no supposed to's. Notice how this feels in your body. If there's anywhere that feels pain, pinching, weirdness, you're not comfortable, like you're gonna feel a little bit of, your muscles working, but if it's like uncomfortable in a sharp way, does that make sense? Ease out of it, change it up, move your foot to the left, move your foot to the right, bend your knee less, bend your knee more, like play around with it. All right, you have a choice here. You can straighten your right leg if you'd like, reach your right hand forwards, tip your right hand down, or keep your right knee bent, tip your right hand down, left hand up. Your choice. We're just staying here for a full breath in and a slow breath out. Hands to your hips, come up with your torso, point your right toes the same direction as your left toes. Hinge at your hips, fold forward. Now, if forward folds are not comfortable for you, one thing you can use, I guess you can't really see it, but you can use a table and have your hands there instead. So you have a bit more support. That way you can also footstools, blocks, pillows. You might instead let your spine round, let your head be heavy. Let's take a couple breaths here, maybe moving a little if that feels good. So that might mean like swaying your torso, might mean bending one knee and then the other. Walk both of your hands to the top edge of your mat. Rock your weight back, so big bends in your back leg, step your left foot forwards. Hands to your hips, inhale, lift halfway-ish. Exhale, come back up. So standing up, hands can be on your body, arms can be at your sides. If you feel like lightheaded or anything when you stand up, if you look a little ahead of you on the floor. When you're ready, hands to hips, step your right foot back. So your toes are on the floor, your heel is lifted, arms alongside your body. So your right leg, your torso are in the same line-ish. It doesn't have to be like an exact math, but that feeling of leaning forwards. How does this feel in your hips and your back? If there's any feeling of like pinchiness, that's a word, probably not. Add a little space left or right, like we talked about on the other side. So maybe move your right foot to the right or left foot to the left. How does it feel now? Hands to your hips, pivot your right heel down. So we're coming to warrior two. This is the one where your back foot is pointing to the side, front foot's pointing forward. And then you can move around where your feet are too. And one thing that's an interesting practice here is to bend into your knee. Notice how your knees, hips, ankles feel. Straighten your leg, maybe move, bend again. How does that feel? Slow your breath down as much as you can. If you're feeling like you can't breathe, try focusing on your exhale. You can also ease out of this at any point. Option to straighten your left leg. Slide your left arm forwards, left hand down, right hand up, or from your warrior two, tip your left hand down, right hand up. Your choice. Nice. Bring your hands to your hips, stand up, heel toe your feet closer together, and then we'll actually just come to standing again. You can use the backs of your hands on your rib cage. So I just want you to bring your awareness to your rib cage. If this isn't comfortable, you don't have to do it this way. You can use, I'm trying to think of something else to use, but you can use something else instead. Just wanting to have a little bit of contact with your rib cage for a moment. As you exhale, think about using like the tiniest bit of pressure to help your rib cage move closer together. As you inhale, let that go. Allow your ribs to move into your hands. Maybe even move your hands out. And when you inhale, add that tiny bit of pressure back in so your rib cage is coming closer together. If you're a person who feels like you can't quite take a long breath in, this is a really helpful tool to lengthen your exhale, which will help take a bigger breath in. Let's move down to seated. So you can sit down on the floor, you can sit down on a chair, whatever works for you. If sitting on the floor is uncomfortable, one thing you can use is like a pillow or a couple of pillows and sit on that and have your legs in front of you. Bring your right ear to your right shoulder. And you can play around with where your left hand is. Maybe you reach your left hand to the side or behind you. Maybe you try bending your hand, bending your arm, and have your hand behind your head or hand touching the back of your shoulder. Nice. Let your left arm come back to your leg. Bring your forehead down to the middle of your chest. Close your eyes if that's comfortable. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Now you can play with where your right arm is reaching. Maybe to the side, maybe out a little bit. Maybe you bend your elbow, have your hand behind your shoulder. Right arm to your right leg, or just down at your side. Bring your forehead back down to your chest. Lift your head up. Let's do a little twist to the right. So similar to when we were doing this standing up, think about using the muscles between like your shoulders and your hips to do the twisting to the side. So it's not just like you're looking to the right, if that makes sense. You can use your left hand on your left leg. Right hand might be behind you. When I'm doing that, it's like my fingertips on the floor. My arms are kind of short, so this is what works for me. You might use like a block or something instead. If you're using a chair, you might have your hand like on the chair. Inhale, come forwards, and then we'll do this twist to the other side. So it's a twist to the left, trying to notice if you look really far to the left. Think of looking a little less to the left and having the twist be more about what's happening around your spine. The rest of your spine, I should say. Come forwards as you breathe in. Find a seat that feels comfortable. And actually, let's add one more thing before we take a few breaths together. If you're sitting in a chair and there's a back right behind you, you might scooch forwards a little bit. So you can bring your hands like to the chair, to the floor behind you. Maybe you interlace your fingers behind your back. And draw your shoulder blades towards your spine. Think of sort of puffing your chest forwards. You might think of lifting your gaze up a little bit, lift your chest up a little bit. Just do this as much as it's comfortable. Sometimes when you're doing this kind of shape, your heart will speed up and it might feel like a lot. So ease off if it's too much. And when you feel ready, could be now, could be in a little bit, come back to center. And then from here, you can decide to lay down, you can stay seated, you can tuck into bed, somewhere that feels comfy for your final resting pose. So as you are setting up in whatever shape you like with pillows, blankets, the whole ordeal, if you like it, check in to see if you're actually comfortable. Sometimes, especially if you've done yoga before, we can set up in a way that's kind of habitual and it's not necessarily comfortable. Notice if you're feeling pain or pinching anywhere. Feel free to make any adjustments to any shape you like. And then maybe letting your eyes close, soften your jaw, soften the muscles around your forehead. Maybe your breath is your focus again. Notice if your brain wanders away. I'm not just going to leave you hanging. If your brain does wander away, see if you can bring your focus back to breath. And if that's feeling a little difficult, you might use something like the sound of your breath or like the feeling of your feet or your hands on the ground. So I want to take a second here and I want to just acknowledge that for a lot of us, or for some of us, our relationship with movement, whether it's yoga or working out, has been a little rocky in the past. Maybe you've been to spaces where you don't feel like you can exist the way your body exists in that class, or where you feel like you can't do anything right. I'm doing quotation marks with my hands in case you still have your eyes closed. Sometimes it feels like quite a vulnerable thing, right? So if that's the case with you, and even if it's not, I want to encourage you to take a second and just appreciate for yourself that you just did this like 20-minute practice. Because it's a big deal, especially if you've had this rocky past. And if this has been your style, I have lots of practices, different styles of practices. Your first class in the virtual group classes is free. I also have an anti-diet workout club, anti-diet yoga club coming up soon too, which is one of my favorite creations. If you ever have any questions, if you have any feedback, whether it's like, a pose felt weird and you're like, I don't understand why this feels this way, or you're not sure how a pose goes or anything like that, please reach out. Info@movewithbilly is my email.com, I should say. And then @movewithbilly is my Instagram. You can find me wherever, ask all the questions you'd like. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this little practice with me. I hope that your day is the best. And I hope to hear from you soon. Bye, take care.